My name is Emily, and I am 12 years old. In this story, I will tell you about the moment I discovered that the people I always called my parents were not my real parents. This is a story of confusion, discovery, and learning the truth about who I really am. I never thought my life could change so suddenly, but one small discovery in my own house opened the door to a secret that had been hidden for years. I used to believe my life was completely normal. My mom prepared breakfast every morning, and my dad always drove me to school. They told me they loved me, and I loved them back with all my heart. Everything seemed perfect, and I never had a reason to doubt anything about my family. But deep inside, I sometimes felt like something didn't completely fit, even though I couldn't explain why. One afternoon, while I was searching in the attic for an old photo album, I found a small wooden box under a pile of blankets. The box looked very old and mysterious, as if someone had tried to hide it for a long time. My curiosity grew stronger with every second. I had never seen it before, and I wondered if it contained something important. After trying for a while, I managed to open the box with a hairpin I had in my hair. Inside, I found papers, an old baby bracelet from a hospital, and a picture of a woman I didn't recognize. My hands trembled as I held the photograph. The bracelet had a different last name, not mine, and the woman in the picture looked nothing like my mother. My heart started racing. Suddenly, the world I thought I knew felt strange and uncertain. I carefully put everything back inside the box and hid it again, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. Should I ask my parents about it? Or should I keep the secret to myself until I understood more? That night, I couldn't sleep because I knew my life was about to change forever. Chapter 2: Questions Without Answers. The next morning, I woke up with the image of that mysterious woman in my mind. I couldn't concentrate in school, and my teachers even asked me if something was wrong. I wanted to tell someone about what I had found, but I was too afraid. If I told my best friend, she might not understand. If I asked my parents directly, they might get angry or try to hide the truth. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone with a secret that seemed bigger than me. When I returned home, I decided to carefully watch my parents. Were they hiding something from me? My mom smiled at me while cooking dinner, and my dad told me jokes at the table, but I couldn't look at them the same way. In my heart, I felt as if they were strangers. I wanted to believe they loved me, but at the same time, I needed to know the truth. That night, while everyone was sleeping, I went back to the attic. I took the box again and looked closer at the papers. There was a birth certificate inside, but the names written there weren't the names of my parents. The paper was old but still clear, and it said the name of another woman, Sarah Williams. My heart almost stopped when I read that name. Who was she? The photograph showed the same woman holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. The baby had the same bracelet I had found in the box. That baby was me. There was no doubt. I was not the biological daughter of the people who had raised me all these years. A part of me felt broken, but another part of me wanted answers immediately. I put everything back again, but now I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. I had to find out who Sarah Williams was and why my parents had never told me the truth. That night, I decided that my search for answers had officially begun. Chapter 3: A Difficult Conversation. The next day, I tried to act normal around my parents, but my heart was full of doubt. My mom asked me if I wanted pancakes or eggs for breakfast, and I couldn't stop staring at her face. Was she really my mom? Or just a woman who raised me? It hurt me to think like that, but I needed to know. At dinner that night, I finally gathered the courage to ask, "Mom, Dad, who is Sarah Williams?" The room became silent. My mom dropped her fork, and my dad looked at me with wide eyes. I knew instantly that they understood the name. They exchanged a look that told me everything. They had been hiding something for years. My dad sighed and put his hand on mine. "Emily, we were going to tell you when you were older," he said softly. My mom had tears in her eyes. "Sarah Williams is your biological mother," she whispered. My whole body felt weak, as if the ground under me had disappeared. It was true. My suspicion was not just my imagination. I asked them why they never told me before. My mom explained that Sarah was very young and couldn't take care of a baby when I was born. She made the painful decision to give me to them because they could provide me with a safe and stable life. They adopted me, but they always planned to tell me the truth when the right time came. Even though their words were full of love, I still felt betrayed. I couldn't understand why they had lied for so long. My mom cried, saying they never wanted me to feel abandoned or unloved. My dad reminded me that even if they weren't my biological parents, they chose me, raised me, and loved me as their own. But my heart was still filled with confusion. Chapter 4: Searching for the Truth. After that conversation, I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah Williams. Who was she? Where was she now? Did she ever think about me? My parents answered some questions, but there were so many things they didn't know, or maybe they didn't want to tell me. I felt like I had to find her myself, even if it was scary. I went back to the box and looked again at the papers. One of the documents mentioned a hospital in another town. I wrote down the name, thinking it might help me. Maybe the hospital had records, or maybe someone there remembered her. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I couldn't just stay still. At school, I couldn't focus on my classes. My best friend asked me why I was so quiet, but I didn't tell her the truth. I wasn't ready to share my secret with anyone else. This was my journey, and I had to face it on my own. Still, the weight of the mystery was heavy on my shoulders. One afternoon, I searched the internet for the name Sarah Williams. Hundreds of results appeared, but none seemed to match. There were too many people with that name. I felt frustrated and hopeless, but then I thought of something. Maybe my parents knew more than they admitted. Maybe they were protecting me from something. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would not stop until I found Sarah Williams. I didn't know if meeting her would bring me happiness or more pain, but I needed to look into her eyes and hear the truth. Only then would I finally understand who I really was. Chapter 5: The Journey Begins. The weekend finally arrived, and I felt ready to take the first step in my search. I told my parents I was going to the library to study, but instead, I planned to visit the town where the hospital was located. My heart was beating fast as I packed a small backpack with a notebook, some money, and the photo of Sarah Williams. I knew it was risky, but I couldn't stop myself. When I got on the bus, I stared out the window, imagining what I might find. Would I discover that Sarah still lived nearby? Or would she be gone, leaving me with nothing but more questions? The ride felt long, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept repeating her name in my mind, as if it were a secret key that could open the door to my past. When I arrived at the town, everything looked unfamiliar. The streets were quiet, the houses were old, and the air felt different from the place I called home. I walked toward the hospital, nervous but determined. Every step I took felt like a step closer to the truth. Inside the hospital, I asked at the reception if they had any records from 12 years ago. The nurse looked at me strangely, but after I showed her the bracelet, her expression changed. She said she couldn't give me details, but she told me to wait. My heart raced as I sat in the waiting area, imagining what she might find. After a long wait, the nurse returned with a piece of paper. "This is all I can give you," she whispered. On the paper, there was an address written clearly. Sarah Williams had lived nearby once. I felt a mixture of fear and excitement. I was one step closer to finding her. Chapter 6: The Unexpected Discovery. With the address in my hand, I walked through the town until I reached a small house. The windows were closed, and the garden looked abandoned, as if nobody had lived there for years. My heart sank. Was I too late? I stood there for a while, not knowing what to do. A neighbor noticed me staring at the house and walked over. "Are you looking for Sarah?" she asked kindly. My voice trembled as I said yes. The woman told me that Sarah had moved away years ago, but she sometimes came back to visit her sister, who still lived in the town. My hope lit up again. There was still a chance to find her. The neighbor gave me the sister's address. I walked quickly, my steps full of nervous energy. When I reached the house, I knocked on the door, and a woman opened it. She looked at me with confusion, but when she saw the photo in my hand, her eyes filled with tears. "You must be Emily," she whispered. My heart almost stopped. How did she know my name? She explained that Sarah had always talked about me, even though she had given me up for adoption. She said Sarah loved me deeply but believed she couldn't give me the life I deserved. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I listened. For the first time, I felt close to the truth. The woman told me that Sarah still lived in another city, and she wrote down the address for me. My journey was not over yet, but now I was closer than ever to meeting the woman who had given me life. Chapter 7: Face to Face with the Truth. A week later, I convinced my parents to take me to the city where Sarah lived. They were nervous, but after everything, they agreed. I think they understood that I needed to see her with my own eyes. During the car ride, my stomach twisted with anxiety. What if she didn't want to see me? What if meeting her only made things worse? When we arrived at the address, I saw a small apartment building. My legs felt weak as I walked up the stairs. My parents stayed behind to give me space, and I knocked on the door with trembling hands. For a moment, there was silence, and then the door slowly opened. A woman stood before me. Her eyes were the same shape as mine, and her hair looked like mine too. I instantly knew it was her. "Emily," she whispered, covering her mouth with her hand. My eyes filled with tears, and I nodded. She pulled me into her arms, and for the first time, I felt the warmth of my biological mother. We both cried without saying a word. After a while, she invited me inside, and we sat down together. She told me about her life, her struggles, and the reasons she had made the painful decision to let me go. I listened to every word, and though part of me felt sad, another part finally felt complete. I realized that even though my life had been full of confusion and secrets, I was loved by two families, one that raised me and one that gave me life. That day, I began to understand who I truly was.